Good evening and welcome to the latest segment of OSMG Television. As most of you have seen on all the media reports with NFL Network, ESPN, with Adam Schefter, this is what's known as Black Monday. So it's a numerous firings with the firing of Ray Farmer, the GM for the Cleveland Browns, the Rustin Webster, the GM for Tennessee Titans, numerous head coaches being released, Tom Coughlin at two-time Super Bowl winning head coach being released from the New York Giants, Jim Tom Sula from the San Francisco 49ers, and right now still in talks, Sean Payton with the New Orleans Saints with the general manager Mickey Loomis. But on the agent side, there's another important part of this day, and I would like to title this segment, "The Future is Now." So as the regular season ends for 16 NFL teams, half the league, there's an important part that happens as NFL teams start to turn the page in order to prepare for the 2016 season. And the rosters will expand from 53 back to 90-man rosters for the offseason workout programs. So what happens is that teams are actually able to sign what's called futures contracts. So first of all, I would like to congratulate OSMG client Gus Johnson on signing a futures contract with the Atlanta Falcons. He was actually on the practice squad with the Atlanta Falcons from about week 7 to the end of the season. So when rosters expand back to the 90, the practice squad players are kind of what's considered limbo. So in order to secure the rights for those practice squad players and be able to keep them in the long-term plans for the next season, teams sign what's called a futures contract. So a futures contract takes place at the end of the regular season. So whenever a team, actually a non-playoff team, for instance, doesn't make the playoffs, then the actual futures contract can be executed at the time their season ends. But the big thing about futures contracts also is that they do not go into effect until the beginning of the 2016 league year. So, for instance, now we have the playoffs and then we'll have the Super Bowl. So the league year, and this is another teaching point as well, it begins with the beginning of free agency. So the league year for the NFL begins in March, and that is usually the start of veteran free agency for the NFL. So there's plenty of times during that period, and case in point. So, for instance, the Cleveland Browns, they have their 10 players on their practice squad, but their general manager was just fired. Their director of player personnel, Morocco Brown, was just released from his duties as well. So the Cleveland Browns may actually sign those 10 players that were on the practice squad to close the season out to a futures contract. But here's the situation. Let's say another general manager comes in and he has different players he wants to sign to that roster. Well, the whole point of a futures contract, since it doesn't go into effect, they actually can terminate that contract before the new regular season, the new season will begin in March. Hence the term futures contract. So now you kind of know what's going on in regard to the futures deals. So I just wanted to just take that break and just let you know a little bit about what futures contracts are, just in case you see them. There was another big story about a German player signing a futures contract, and I think it was with the Miami Dolphins. And then you'll also see a lot of the Canadian Football League players with their season ending in November. They'll actually execute futures contracts, and they'll have workouts up until the end of the regular season. Then they'll execute their futures contract in January, like all the other players like Gus. But again, I want to thank you for your support of OSMG Television, and once again, congrats to OSMG client Gus Johnson on signing a futures contract with the Atlanta Falcons. And we thank you so much for your support of OSMG Television on YouTube under OSMG Television, and continue we just continue to add any questions that you may have. I'd love to expound on anything and just help you along in this process, just in case there's any questions that you may have. And thank you again for your support of OSMG Television, and we're out.